Hello, hey mum and dad, welcome back to the final video in the series for getting your child into Oxford. So in video 1 we spoke about the importance of getting started early, right? You know, with GCSEs, A-levels and whatnot. It is super important, if I'm being honest, to make sure that you know, your son or daughter is getting as close to the top grades as possible to give them every chance of, you know, getting that place at Oxford or Cambridge. The second part of that is I always get that word jumbled up. Extracurricular activities that matter. Just doing stuff that you know, goes beyond playing football with friends once a week in the park on a Saturday, developing it into something that could be awesome and excellent. All of that kind of stuff. So do look back at video 1 as well as video 2 for you know, for that information. And what I want to talk about today is the importance of the application and interview process, and you know, how that is critical to getting the place at Oxford or Cambridge. So the application, right? One of the things that are really important when writing an application is filling it with data-driven information, first of all. So what I mean by data-driven information is using specifics. So rather than saying last year, you know, I went to Kenya to do some voluntary work for the summer, you would say last year I was in Mombasa from June to July 2012, and I worked for 7 weeks on a program with this project. Do you see the difference between the two? Data-driven statements are incredibly key because specifics make you sound like you have a complete grip on what you're saying and doing and being honest. It will help the admissions officer from thinking that perhaps, well, maybe you're lying and you went there to party. If you have the specifics, it really, really does help. And this data-driven approach applies to dates, through anything that your child has done to improve a process, how many goals they scored for their football team the season before. What else could it include? Let me think. It can include you know, the exact statistics for grades that they got during their education. There's all kinds of stuff that are data-driven statements. The next thing is to show some evidence of a wider interest in your chosen subject. So in the instance of myself, for example, I went and studied literature at Warwick, and I do remember my Oxford and Cambridge interviews, in fact. And one of the things that, you know, I did talk about in my personal statement, just to give you an example of it, is I applied to pick literature. Well, I applied for literature, English literature, and I put books in such as Great Expectations, Lord of the Rings, the Da Vinci Code, the Satanic Verses, Midnight's Children. So I put a real broad range of actual literature. So think about how this has applications for whatever course that you're studying. If it's economics, then, you know, you can look at, I don't know, perhaps game theory, different economic, you know, different economists that are, you know, quite well known, as well as intellectuals. You know, game theory, Freakonomics is a really interesting book, you know, kind of pop economics, as well as the more data, well, the more academic ones, if you will. So first thing, data-driven statements. Second, active evidence of, you know, wider reading around your own subject. The third thing to consider is patterns of excellence. It's something that we spoke about with your extracurricular activities, but think about not only just data-driven statements, but think about all of your actions in terms of achievements. What are the achievements that, you know, that what has your child achieved? These are going to be the 3 really key things that will really help make for an outstanding personal statement. So if your son or daughter has ever been commended by their football league manager, has ever been told, you know, you did a really good job in this pottery or cookery class, or, you know, has gone out and done things for themselves or by themselves, or it be working, saving up, traveling, you know, doing a course or whatever it might be, looking for activities and evidence of excellence and patterns by demonstrating, you know, things that they've done well, that will be a really impressive third part of the cog to the personal statement. So those 3 things will really massively help create an excellent personal statement. Now, The second part of this is, of course, the interview. Now, the interviews are always going to be tough. There's always going to be some element that's you're not going to expect, okay? So in terms of preparation for the interview, at Oxford and as well at Cambridge, certainly for the case of English, you go and you stay for 2 days and you have a couple of interviews, one of them based around personal experience, then one's a technical interview, and you might even sit an exam. So I recommend that you practice for this by contacting a professor at your university and asking them to, for your A-levels rather, and asking them to take you through some mock interviews. Aim to do 5 mock interviews and aim to make them as different as each other so that your son or daughter can be prepared for the unexpected. Now again, there's 2 approaches to this. Of course, you can pay for a tutor via Meet My Tutor, but if you prefer to do it just yourself, then go through and look at typical Oxford or Cambridge questions that relate to your chosen area of expertise and practice them with your child. Try and throw them off. Try and misbalance them, make them feel misguided, off balance rather, just so that they get used to that kind of match day preparation where it's going to be stuff that you're not familiar with and you have to really think on your feet, as well as of course having a rigorous and thorough knowledge of all of the things you've written in your personal statement. It really is sometimes a little bit wild, the whole interview process, but with that kind of preparation, 5 interviews, 5 practice interviews, take questions from Google and work out some questions yourselves. Always throw one in there like a spanner in the works to throw them off, and it should be really cool preparation for the actual interview process. So just to review, with the personal statement, data-driven statements, patterns of excellence, as well as a deep knowledge of your area with a special reference to any wider reading that you've done. And then with the interview, do 5 mock interviews, practice, throw off your son and daughter, get a tutor from Meet My Tutor if you want to, someone that's already got the necessary background. We've got a ton of tutors here, and go and get your child that place in Oxford or Cambridge. I hope this series has been really helpful, and I hope that I see you back on the site, and if you've got any questions, feel free to contact me directly. See ya!